Welcome to our developer study group number 4. It is a pleasure to be with you here today, and I am excited about what we're going to talk about. Hopefully, we're going to get pretty deep into the weeds here, which I always love to do, especially with you all. And we're going to get started. Today, we're going to talk about EAV, Entity Attribute Values, as well as the checkout. So EAV is going to be a little bit more of a review, and then checkout will be we're going to dive into the back end of it, and it's going to be good. I know that it's always fun as I work to prepare for these webinars. I get a refresher myself and always remember things. I had forgotten about that, so it's good for me as I dive into this as well, and I relearn, I guess you might say, about what we're talking about here. So yes, wanted to say good morning to you all. As we dive in here. Well, actually, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening as you are all coming in. I see people are starting to filter in here, so I'm going to just take a moment actually, I should probably wait on that. First, I think we'll just do our regular introductions. And the question I always ask is, how are you all doing? How are you doing? Well, sometimes I ask that and sometimes other questions, but to me, this is like a perfect day here in the Kansas City area. It is, let's see here, I think it's in the 50s already, 50 degrees. So I don't know. Well, I should do the calculation here. 50 to Celsius. For the rest of you, that'd be about 10 degrees Celsius, and it's supposed to get up nice and warm today. So I am excited about that. I'm looking forward to getting outside for a few minutes. Got a lot of other stuff going on, so I can't take too much time today to get outside, but looking forward to it anyways. I'm trying to think. Yes, it's Easter weekend, so definitely be getting together with family and all that stuff tomorrow. So looking forward to that. All right, I see everyone filtering in. I think I'm going to take a moment. It's hard. Should I delay or not? But I think I'll take a moment and we'll talk about this. We will talk about this. You might have seen on LinkedIn. I think we posted on Twitter. But my goal is to help equip developers. I'm sure you've seen conversations about my new book, Art of Debugging, as it is being released hopefully in June. We are finishing up all the graphics and the typesetting, meaning making all the text inside the book look nice. And so that's coming out in June. But I really couldn't wait to pull this together. Basically, what that announcement was talking about and what we are releasing here probably on Monday. This is a free course to help you become an expert at using Xdebug. I was talking to just somebody yesterday, wonderful, wonderful person. And yet, as I was talking to them, I asked them a question. So what's your favorite feature in Xdebug? And this person, they were like, I use print R, I use var dump. And I had a podcast conversation recently with somebody. Dan, that's right, Dan. It'll be coming out here soon. And literally, that was not Dan who said that. Oh, God, man, I can't remember who said that. Basically, the idea is coding without Xdebug is like coding without your hand. Coding without your hand would be, or doing almost anything without your hand. And I have tremendous sympathy for those people who are missing a limb or something like that. It would make life much more difficult. And yet they still cope. They still are able to live life, able to manage, et cetera, et cetera. But this is something that can equip you, or I shouldn't say can. This will equip you to being a better developer. I can guarantee you. So swiftauto.com/mastering Xdebug e-commerce. This will equip you to being a better developer. It's free. Just enter in your email address and you will get access to the course. So feel free to do that now. You will have access to the videos here Monday or Tuesday when we get those finally uploaded. But I am incredibly excited about this because there's just no resources out there for getting started on Xdebug. And yet it is probably the single most important tool that you can have for being a developer. So that's that. I am really excited. So make sure to go over to swiftauto.com/mastering Xdebug e-commerce drop your email in there, and you'll be able to get access to that course. Good morning, Charles. Good morning, Gareth. It's good to have you all on. I see there's more people in here than you guys. So, hey, for the rest of you, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi as well. I always enjoy seeing who is here. Yeah, so I think we're about ready to get started into the actual technical material. Let me just start out, though, by asking, is there any questions that you all have? So I think, was it 3 weeks ago, we started into EAV. So it was a little while ago. But do you have any questions about any of EAV or anything that we could answer before we dive in today? There's a lot to talk about here today. So, but we'll still try to answer any questions that are present here before we get started. Any questions about EAV? And then we will dive in. If not, I'm going to throw a couple of questions at you because I want to, again, it's all about equipping you guys. And this is really good. I am excited to be able to pull this together. Technically, some people would say I should charge for this. I don't want to charge for this just because, hey, my number one goal is to see people certified. Absolutely to see people certified. And so if I can arrange that, if I can help that, boy, that makes me happy. So anyways, that's good. Let's open up with a sample question, a practice test question. You are helping a merchant who is very distraught. I'm sure we've all been there. Hi, Marcelo and Vudoc. That's great to see you all here. Thanks for coming in. So you're helping a merchant who is very distraught. They imported a CSV file and the values for several custom attributes were reset to 0. You found that the CSV file did not contain the additional attributes column and the import behavior was replace. What is the problem? Charles, I've been using Xdebug since 2021. Looks like I might have a little mistake on my page here. Let me just I got to see this here. Here, well, so real quick, we'll take a little diversion. Oh, come on. Chrome has a little bit of a problem when you drag tabs around from screen to screen. Huh, that's funny. It's a typo. It should be since 2011. That's good. Yeah, so I think it was 2011 that I started using Xdebug. So, yeah, definitely a issue there. So we will get that resolved. That's hilarious. Good mention, Charles. That was like some eagle eyes there. All right. Okay, so back to this. What is the problem? Does any one of you have an idea? And I'm actually throwing some more practice test questions. They're not quite as well formed as a normal practice test question, but it's designed to get you thinking. And also, these are not going to have answers associated with them. So more of an essay style would be really good. What would be the problem in this case? So I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to drop your answer in the comments here. What would be the problem in this case if you're talking to a merchant? And then we'll also talk about how to identify the problem here. Kind of actually ties into the whole idea of art of debugging. So what would be your answer to this specific question? I'm not seeing any comments pop in yet, so we'll just go ahead and answer this myself. What I believe is going on here is, well, let's work through this, actually, a better way to do that. All right, so the values for several custom attributes were reset to 0, okay? You found that the CSV did not contain the additional attributes column. Okay, so in it, when we're importing a CSV file, and the thing I would number one suggest for this, to answer this question, is to go do it yourself. And ultimately, as you're taking like our Swift Auto practice tests, you want to, and I say this all the time, but you want to look at the answers as little as possible. Looking at the answers is guaranteed to reduce or eliminate the value that the practice test brings. Because you have now memorized, you will now remember the answer, and so when you're going through, it's literally pre-programmed. Your mind will just jump to that answer, and that's that. Like there's no more thinking about it. But Instead, what I suggest is on your results screen, you have a list of all the questions, and I actually have all the answers by default hidden. And it tells you, though, which question you got right and which question you got wrong. Go through those wrong questions and run that scenario yourself. Yes, it might take 10 or 15 minutes to build it out, but that's okay. It might even take an hour. You're going to learn a lot in that process. So with that in mind, we could actually do this ourselves. And here's what we would do. Let me open up Excel here. Of course, it's not loading. I was actually having some trouble with it earlier, so maybe I won't be able to run this scenario like I was hoping I could. Oh, maybe it is loading up. Okay. Hi, Yesha. How are you doing? Okay, great. Open up test import. Yeah, Excel's having a little problem. All right. So let's say this is the file that the merchant just uploaded. This is they sent this over to you. Hey, this is what we're having trouble. Hey, Yesha and Niha, welcome in. Come on in. It's great to have you here. So the merchant has uploaded this file. Let's run this through ourselves. So we're going to come into system. And of course, the nice thing is they told you exactly what file they used and how they uploaded it. So we're going to come into system import. I'm going to disable my debugger here. That'll speed things up. Hey, Jazz, come on in too. Good having you. Okay, so entity type of products, import behavior, they said was replace. Choose file. And yeah, let's see what happens. Check data. Product type is invalid or not supported. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can work on that. So let's see here. I think is it type or product type? I can't remember. We'll try this again. Good evening, Mohammed. Nia, I'm sorry that it seems blurry. Does this seem blurry for anybody else? Okay. Nice. So, of course, this is... There we go. Let's try just re-importing this again. So, remember, our import behavior is replace. I'm going to load in our CSV file. Oh, attribute set. Okay, so actually, this is not an example I'll be able to fully pull together. I used it in a little bit different context in my testing before our video today. But what I think we are seeing here is something that's very key, and that is understanding the import behaviors. And that's really what this question is getting at here. So notice, and this is where it comes back to reading questions incredibly carefully. You found that the CSV file did not contain the additional attributes column. Okay. And the import behavior was replaced. Now, what you're seeing here, and with these errors that I'm getting here, invalid value for attribute set. And you'll notice that as we pay careful attention to replicating this replace behavior, I was purposely trying to skip past that so you didn't see this message. But we'll circle back and we'll just look at it here. Is the existing product data is replaced with new data. Exercise caution when replacing data because existing product data will be completely cleared and all references in the system will be lost. This is very key to understand here. All references will be lost. And so using basically this product is deleted. So product ID is 1 is deleted and then it is re-imported. So in other words, when you run this, if there is any association to product ID 1, all those are going away. For example, order items, those are all going away. So the order items will be present, but now we'll have a broken link. It will no longer reference back to this specific product. And if there's any custom functionality, same thing. Or here's the big one. If there is any foreign keys that are set to cascade delete, it will also delete those rows too. So this is a really big deal using replace. And again, it comes back to understanding this functionality and how it works. So keep that in mind with this specific area. So what is the problem? Well, the problem is they used replace. And so you're probably going to have to go back to a database backup. Hopefully those exist to be able to pull this back together. Okay, Ejaz has a couple of questions. Please paste this in the comments, please, the link. So I'm just using this on my local system here, so I don't necessarily think I can share that. If I shared it, you guys wouldn't be able to access it. Okay, so how and when the catalog.xml file should be used. All right, let's go back into PHP Storm, and we're just going to do a search, catalog.xml. I'm not aware of any catalog.xml files. So there is a, let me see here. In Etsy, not checkout, wrong one. Catalog, Etsy. There's catalog attributes.xml. And actually, we could just talk about that here real quick. What does this do? So these are provide some extra context for the attributes. And so what we could do, I think a good one would be here. Let's just do search for used in auto generation. And we see it is found here. We can set even a breakpoint and see how this works. But ultimately, I think there's another place that this is used. And we see by searching for catalog attributes.xml, it is set to, it is used in a number of places. So for example, if we come into, let's see here, bundle, quote, I thought there was one for quote, maybe not. I'll load this one up. Group name is quote item. I don't know why that's in sales, that should be in quote. Basically, what this would do is this loads in the product collection these attributes by default. So actually, what we could do is, here's what better approach. Okay, so we found. Okay, this is great. So it looks like, just looking here. So it looks like a couple of people are saying the Magento backend video is blurry. Let me see here from my end. I don't think I changed anything, but okay. Well, it might actually be a little bit. Let me take one moment here. Does it blurry for anybody else? If it is, again, I don't remember changing anything in that department, but I will definitely take a look at this for future. Make sure we get this resolved. Video's fine, still fine for me. Okay. Complete blurry. All right. Well, I do know that I think if there is video connection problems, then it will reduce the quality of the video just so that it can be downloaded. And okay, Gareth, it's okay for you. So I hate to say it, but it seems like it might be a connection issue on your end. But you know, who am I to fully say that? So, anyways, all right. So this is great. Great question, Ejaz, and I appreciate you bringing this up. Okay, so catalog attributes.xml, and I can foresee there being questions. How do you include attributes along with a quote? Well, basically, when a quote is loaded up, how do you load up the attributes for the products that are loaded in for the quote items? Okay, so you're bringing that up basically says, okay, we have catalog attributes.xml. What is the purpose? What is the use case for this? So we identified in this Magento module catalog helper product, we identified that this attribute config, get attribute names, is used to load values from this. So this specifically, this attribute config, catalog model attribute config, is used here. And so we can go look at other places that this is referenced, or this catalog attributes file is used, and we see quote item here. So now instead of just searching for quote item through, well, look, watch this. The issue is when we search for things, for example, like quote item, we're going to find a bazillion uses of this, and they're not going to be helpful. Like, how are we going to go through and find our value out of this? It's going to be almost impossible. So better yet, what I suggest is we search for references to this class, because this class seems to be the ticket to loading values from this catalog attributes XML file. So I'm going to search for this, and we see module wish list uses it. We see module catalog, flat indexer. Let's see, I see 53 references, so that's not too bad. Oops, I think it's cut off a little bit here for you guys. There we go. I'll make sure we can see a few more. Okay, here we go. Magento module quote model quote. We have our quote config, excuse me. We have this reference and get product attributes. Okay, so this is in our model quote. And let's come down to here, module quote, get product attributes. Ooh, now we're getting close. Okay, so I searched for, and I should have gone a little slower there. I searched for get product attributes, this method name. I searched for this, so I see 2 tests, not interested there. Although tests can be a really nice way to unlock other pieces of functionality. So don't totally discount them, but I don't use them very often. We see our method declaration here, and then we see this quote config get product attributes. Now we're barking up the right tree. Okay, so we see our assign products method, a product collection. I'm dropping a breakpoint here. We're gonna run. We have to run this. Product collection create set store ID, add ID filter, add attribute to select. This quote config get product attributes. So if you want a attribute always loaded with the products associated with a quote item, which is associated with a quote, you can add it to the quote item group inside a custom catalog attributes.xml file. With that said, I think it would be only appropriate to, let's see here, shopping cart. Refresh. Oh, I disabled XDebug. Of course that's not going to work. 1 second. Good. I'm glad it is fine now. I hate it when there's an issue for other people and I can't necessarily resolve it myself. So I'm glad it is working. All right, so pops up right away. And let's take a look. So I'm going to step into this. Create, we don't need the store ID. Whoopsie. Okay, we're good at ID filter. Nope. Get product attributes. Ooh, we have a plugin here. Okay, or the possibility, at least it's an intercepted class. Okay. All right, so this attribute config get attribute names. Let's step in here. Get attribute names in our Magento model catalog, etc. Data storage get group name. So let's step in as well. Get. Whoopsie, I think we jumped past that. All right, so what was the results? And we see all these values coming into the result here, which is great. TS dimensions link, that is from our basic developer course. We actually use this file in that case. So we have that. But also the other thing to notice is if we wanted this to be flexible, remember XML is not flexible, it's static, so we can set values there, which is great, but it's not necessarily able to be easily edited. So we can also use a plugin. Plugins are great to use, but don't use them if you're just setting a static list of attributes, like passing a constant array. Don't do that. But if you, again, use the XML if you're going to do that. But if you need it to be variables for some reason, honestly, I don't know why it would need to be variable. You could use a plugin, which looks like somebody's using a plugin here. So let's see. Module sales rule, quote config at product attributes. Oh, okay, get active attributes. Oh, this is a good use case. Great. Attributes get rule resource get active attributes. Okay. Sales rule product attributes. Okay, so basically this is fetching this from the database as well. So that would be a very legitimate use case for using an after plugin. So excellent. We learned something right there. So we're adding to the attribute keys and we're returning that. So looks like category ID sales. Looks like now we have some, we have some duplicates in here, skew, whatever. But anyways, yeah, that's how that works. And we're adding attribute to select. And remember that the add attribute to select can be an array. The one thing also I just want to quickly call out, and I know this relates back to EAV, and I think it's on the test, is so add attribute to select. How does that work? And so let's just take a quick moment to understand how this works. And I hope that, actually, let me just say this, write this down to go investigate this a little further. There's a lot that goes on here. So just write this down to take it a little further. Oh, and one other comment. I keep coming up with stuff to say. One other comment is flat catalogs. So was the catalog, I forget the name of the table. It's just search for flat in your database lookup tool. Flat products are no longer necessarily useful. So Elasticsearch is used for that which kind of replaces a lot of that functionality. So flat products are no longer a recommendation. I don't have it enabled, so it jumps right past that. We'd step into here, add attribute to select, et cetera, et cetera. So it iterates through recursively a little bit. However, one thing I want to call out here, add field to select. No, there's not. Okay. Oh, yes, that's right. There is two methods in Magento 2. It was different from Magento 1. So this was kind of a legacy or carryover. You can either use to add a new attribute to select. You can either say add attribute to select or add field to select in the same way as for the filters. Add attribute to filter, add field to filter. So both of those do the same thing as we see here. Add attribute to select, add field to select. Add attribute to filter, add field to filter. So both of those are the same methods. They call each other. So that is a very important thing to understand or remember. Now, we have to also understand, though, that if you're not using a EAV-enabled entity, so for example, if it's not a product, a customer, or category, then there will be no add attribute to select. It's just add field to select or add field to filter. So ultimately, if you wanted to, you can, on your end, you can standardize, just always use add field to select, add field to filter. That always will work in all cases in Magento working with a collection. Add attribute to select. All right. Jump in here real quick. Nope. Let's see here. There's a lot of power with this, and we're not going to take the time to actually dive into all the capabilities that you have with this, but it is important to understand a couple of things. First, when calling add attribute to select or add field to select, notice that if there's a couple of if statements here. First, if there's an asterisk as the attribute name, so we could do collection either add field to select or add attribute to select. You call that, and then you put an asterisk as the field name. It's going to select all attributes. The cases in which you should select all attributes are, I'm not going to say zero, it's very, very few. And it's incredibly non-performant to do that. So again, this is a very important topic for the test. And that's one of the biggest reasons why not to use repositories for EAV-enabled entities. For example, catalog or products, categories, or customers, because all attributes will be loaded and it's going to be a lot slower. So that's why I use collections pretty much all the time to load in a product, even just to load a product in. Because if you remember, if you call product repository get to get a single product, all attributes will again be loaded. Very expensive. So you want to use the collection. That comes back to this question of repository or collection. Repository or collection. For product, it's almost always better to use the collection for performance reasons, because you get to select which attributes are loaded in. I totally wish repositories had that capability, but they don't. So it is what it is at that point. All right. So anyways, do not use this asterisk unless absolutely possible, because if nothing else, you'll notice that entity load all attributes, get attributes by code. It's very expensive to do this. Yes, they try to cache it, but still very expensive to do that. All right, so we can attribute instance, get attribute. So this is loading up the attribute. And select attributes, attribute instance get ID. So honestly, this could even be improved from a performance perspective. So because ultimately, do we need to really load up an entire attribute instance just to get the ID? All it takes is one small SQL query. Instead, we're probably running, I have no clue how many SQL queries. All right. As you can tell, performance is a big deal to me because it's a big deal to merchants as well. We have to build applications that are performant. All right, I'm going to jump back up out of this here and set a breakpoint. Actually, what I'm going to do is, oh no, I'm going to set a breakpoint right here. I want to quickly review the load process, and I can't remember. I don't think we talked about this last week, but this is critical to our understanding of how EAV loads and works. So I'm going to set a breakpoint there. All right. Hopefully we have not loaded the product database. If is loaded, I'm going to just make sure because it's not loaded already. Oh, it is loaded. Okay, so here's what we can do. So I open the evaluation window, and we talk about this in the Mastering XDebug talk, or a course that we just released. And for those of you who are not here for that at the beginning, Mastering XDebug is a new course that I've pulled together. I'll put that on the screen here real quick. Mastering XDebug is a new course. It's free, 100% free. Just go to this URL, drop your email address in, and you will get access to it. Now, I will say that there is no videos today, but the videos are coming here in the next couple of days. So you will have the opportunity to get in here shortly, and I think you're going to learn a lot. I'll learn a lot from this course. I learned a lot as I was building it. It's like, wow. And I've used it for about 10 years now, except for the fact that Charles pointed out that on this Mastering XDebug page, it said I've been using it since 2021, which that's a good start, but it's been a little bit longer since then. Okay. Anyways, its collection is loaded as false, so I'm changing the value of this variable so we can get the proper result we want out here. All right, this load with filter. Let's step through here. We're not going to look at any of this. We will look at this get data. Okay, this get select. Okay, well, actually, here's the data fetch all. So this is the root data that is loaded in this. Oopsie. I thought this was for our collection, but it looks like it actually, I missed. Yeah, oh, great. Okay. This product collection. Okay, this is really what I want. Okay. Get item by ID, load. I just want to make sure. Okay, so now we're looking at the product collection. I thought I got that. Oops, yeah, so we want to set this to be false. So we reset that, so now we can reload in the product collection. All right, so now we're in the abstract collection area to load it in. Okay, we'll step through this. Okay, load entities. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to... Okay, query, this get select. We can see, okay, the select is basic. Fetch also. These rows here. Look at here. So we have 3 products that are loaded in. And this is basically the information from the catalog product entity table. That's all it is. So now, we will force run the cursor, and you'll see, that's what I'm talking. Uh-oh. It looks like I somehow messed that up. Let's start over again. NS, you will... Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, good. Okay. We'll just set that to be false. Load entities in here. Okay. So we have our rows going to, oopsie, exception. Okay. So nice. Try running this one more time. Okay. So the problem is if it's already been loaded in, We try to load it again. Well, that's not going to work too well. So actually what I think I can do is I'm going to set a breakpoint here. And we should now, yeah, there we go. I think we got it. Okay, so load attributes. Okay, we're getting there. So let's select attributes. Okay, so basically what we're going to do now is we're going to look into the loading process for EAV and see exactly how this works. And you'll see this is very practical. It's very practical, so we'll hang with me here. All right, so we have our attribute. It's loading up this attribute type. The attribute, if it's not static, and let's see here. Yeah, so attribute is not static, and we're putting the attributes into, we're creating an array of what tables we want to select from. So I'm going to now jump down here. All right. And it's funny, I was working through this the other day. Actually, it's kind of a bug on Magento 1, and I'll just put this out here. If there is an override for an attribute, so let's say we have a product, we have attribute ID of 1, there is no value for that attribute ID 1 in the product for ID 1. So attribute ID 1, product 1, there's no value for that attribute. But there is a value for an store override. So for example, store view of, we'll just say 10, there is a value for attribute ID 1, product 1. I've actually seen, at least at Magento 1, that value does not load in because it expects a value for the base scope, and if once the value for the base scope is there, then the override for the child scope can happen. This is just part of the SQL queries. And so let's go and see if this is still a problem on Magento 2. So we're here in get load attributes select, and this is in Magento module catalog model resource model collection, abstract collection. All right, let's just step through this. Okay, so we have our join condition. And yep, I think this is going to be the issue again. So here's the better way to do it. We can just try to view that, but in Xdebug, remember, this is where Xdebug comes in very handy. We're just going to cast the select to a string. Remember, we talked about that last week. A select, it has the capability for the magic toString method, and now we have the SQL query. This right here is how these attributes are loaded, which still means that old problem exists in Magento 2, because what we have here is we have a select from this decimal table, and then we inner join. Then we left join this the store override decimal table, which means that if a value does not exist in this original decimal table, the base value table, it cannot be overridden by a child, which is, in my opinion, that's a bug. And it's been present in Magento 1, it's present in Magento 2. So if anyone wants to go ahead and fix that, by all means do that. In fact, I'm working at fixing it myself because I think it's just incredibly wrong behavior. So anyways, you see, this is how these attributes are loaded. Feel free to work through this SQL. In fact, I think I will take a moment and I will drop this in our Slack channel here later for you guys to review. So it comes down through here, and then values fetch all. We're gonna jump down to values here, and it's funny. I had no intention of actually working through this today, but this is really good. So our checkout will be a little bit delayed, but we'll talk about that next week. We got plenty of time. All right, so we see these values loaded in here, ready to be populated into the product. So that's kind of how it works full circle, using catalog attributes which pushes attributes into the product collection as associated with quote items and quotes, and here is how it is loaded in. So I hope that was helpful, and let me know if you have questions. Ejaz has a question. Is there any way to extend the data repository interfaces? Good question. Okay, great question. So let's say, well, you can use attributes, right? You can create a new attribute for products, categories, and customers. But then it doesn't work in all cases, right? There's situations. Maybe you want log data. Maybe you want a little bit more rich information for about something about a customer, like a ERP reference, right? So you would have maybe the ERP reference ID. You would have a sales rep ID. And so it's kind of, it doesn't necessarily just straight up fit into a one attribute. And you could add as many attributes as you want. But there's a better way. Honestly, while attributes can be helpful and they are automatically associated in the Magento admin, for example, I create an attribute. Oh, where's that? Let's see. Yeah, so I create I create an attribute in Magento, and it automatically shows up in the product display. That works, right? In the product edit screen. That's nice. But that's where you use extension attributes. Extension attributes are incredibly powerful, except that they are incredibly rudimentary too. Extension attributes just provide a mechanism to be able to push data around. So let me talk about that here for a minute. Extension attributes allow you to be able to associate information with an entity, and it works with anyone that is that extends or implements the extensible interface. So, for example, let's go back here and take a look. We have our API here. I'm in the module quote cart. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do cart item interface. Oh, no, it would actually be in data. Excuse me. Cart interface. Let's just look at that. We see it extends or extends. The interface extends. The class should implement. Yeah. This our extensible data interface. All right. So what does that bring along with it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But you will see that we have two methods down here: get extension attributes, set extension attributes. And I think that interface is magic, which Magento relies on in order to start creating those, to automatically create those extension attribute generated classes. And I'll show you those in just a second. But we have our cart extension interface right here. This is auto-generated and based off of when we create values in extension attributes. So let's see here. Here's my Magento quote API data shipping assignment interface. So I think there might be extension attributes for this class in this very class right here. So this is how to attach customizable data, in this case to the cart or the quote. Basically, we create a new extension attribute. We can set the attribute code, we see it's snake case here, but then it is converted into camel case, and then we associate a type with it. Now, we can also add these brackets here at the end, which those brackets mean it's an array. So it's an array of shipping assignments associated with it. Again, very powerful, very customizable. The cool thing is this is automatically pushed down through the API. So if there is extension attributes present, those attributes will be available in any API calls, which can be dangerous. Maybe I used a terrible example in a conversation the other day. Terrible example, but let's just say with a quote, we need to pass down a bank account or customer. Let's say with a customer, we need to pass down a bank account information. A horrible example, but I couldn't figure out something better at the time. But we only want that bank account information to be available in certain contexts. As such, how would we limit that back? And the person I was talking to gave a decent answer, how you could limit it back, but there's a better way. So again, let's use the power of going back to the source, attributes.xsd. This is the source where these extension attributes are specified. And it's especially helpful when we trying to compare this XSD document, which seems to be kind of unintuitive. But when combining this with an actual XML file. So extension attributes, we have, so a couple of things. First, extension attributes, right? So we see how this matches. And attribute type. Okay, so we see attribute type, type and code. See how those match right there. but we also see resources and join. Resources and join. Let's see here, resources type. So see how I select resources type, it highlights it here, and then we have resource. Okay, so let's just do a quick search for resource, because if you kind of remember, ACLs usually are referenced as resources in Magento. So I'm going to come all the way up to here, search for resource, and I'm going to extension attributes. Look at this. Okay. We see our extension attributes for this operation interface. Attribute code is start time string, but it's resources, resource ref as Magento logging this. So we could probably do a search for an ACL.xml, and we got that right here. So this is how we can limit back extension attributes from being available in all contexts. So in other words, this will now only be available through the API if the integration or the API user, admin user, has access to this specific value or this specific resource. Right there is how we do that. So again, that's where there's tremendous power in going back to the source. The other thing is we notice resources, so we can use ACL resources in conjunction with an extension attribute, but we also have join. So let's go look at if there's any examples of join. So I'm going to search for join in, extension attributes.xml. Okay, so yes, there is this. And actually for the cart interface itself. Oh, that's a test suite. I don't want the test suite. I sure thought oh, that's right. That's why it's doing that. Okay. Here we go. Here's an example. Oh, in the very same file we were looking at. Okay, so we can also join, kind of have these values automatically loaded in. So personally, I never use join, and maybe I should. Maybe I really should, but I don't use it at this point. I always create my own values. I mean, I always create a plugin to load the values. Well, actually, so just for your reference, and this is not necessarily pertinent to the test, I usually create 3 plugins whenever I create an extension attribute. Number 1, I attach a plugin to the factory create method. So for example, it would be the quote factory. Well, actually, it's a bad example. The quotes are kind of funky. I like the product. I would attach a plugin to the product create method, product factory create method. I would attach it there. Make sure the extension attribute is available all the time. So I literally don't have to always be checking, is this set or is this extension attribute set or not? Because again, extension attributes are really very manual to create. I then added a plugin to usually the repository, or depends on if you want to get really deep, you could also add another plugin for the collection. The collection load, or actually load with filter is the better method. Collections load with filter and or the product get list and get. So in other words, you're always making sure that this extension attribute is loaded whenever the product is loaded. And then finally, whenever I would do a after plugin for the save, the product repository save. Ultimately, yes, you could, well, actually, not the product repository. You could do that, but it's better, it's more lower level to use the product resources save method, because ultimately that will always be called. Product repository might not be always called because you can call save from a collection. You can call the product resource save itself. But if you attach your plugin to the product resources save method, like an after plugin, it'll always be present. So anyways, that was way more than I wanted to talk about, but this is awesome. I love it. Any questions about what we've discussed thus far that I have not answered? Oops, let me double check here. Gareth found a similar issue in the core with store level objects level values for if some reason there wasn't. Yep, exactly. That was exactly what I was talking about. And I really think that's a bug. Personally, I think it's a bug. Joining 2 tables always gives an array. Some way to get a method. I don't think so. That would not be, well, if you want a single object, you would have to create your own plugins. And personally, there's nothing wrong with creating your own plugins. I like having a little more control over the applications that I'm writing. So that would be one reason why I would probably not use the join. But again, the join's pretty fast and easy to use if you wanted to go that route. Okay. Cool. And again, one other thing just to mention on joins, I am not 100% sure what situations those are available and what situation is not available. So those that works in. I have not honestly literally ever worked with it. I always create my plugins. So maybe I'm archaic in that way, which would be good for me to review. So let's go back to our study group here, our slides, and yes. This is a good one. Okay, we kind of touched on this last week. But what if we need to create a new a column in the catalog product table? How would we go about doing that? This is where static attributes come into play. We can create the column and then we set the values. It ultimately, personally, I would recommend, depending on the context in which you are using this, if the data needs to be editable, maybe it would make sense to have it static. But ultimately, one more EAV attribute probably is not going to hurt performance that much. If you need to add 100 attributes that all need to be editable, yeah, maybe it would make more sense to do that. At some point, you would want to consider starting to use extension attributes. And especially extension attributes are helpful, well, it would be usable through an API. If you have to, if you use them in the front end, they need to be editable in the back end, in the admin area. That's a difficult call. But if this is just through the API, you probably could just get away with using extension attributes. I think it's faster. You have more control over it. And although, if you're needing to load this in like as product specifications, that you would want using the, I don't know. I'm talking myself in circles on this one simply because there's just a number of ways to do it. But what steps would you take to do this? I'm not going to get into an answer on this because we're already 53 minutes into this, which is crazy. That's what happens when you have a good study group. So yeah, we get into this and there's a number of aspects. I suggest you screenshot this question, write an answer on this, and please drop it into the certification challenge or maybe the expert developer Slack channel. The channel in our Slack group. Drop it in there and I'll be happy to give you some critiques. As much detail as you can possibly put in there, and I'll give you my feedback. Excuse me. I'll give you my feedback on that here when you do that. This is a great question to work through. Another one. You're asked to create a new attribute, but have it assigned to two specific attribute sets. What steps do you take? We actually kind of talked about this last week in our deep dive. This is making it a little bit more practical. Now, how would you create a select list with editable options pre-populated? Again, this is, I'll disappear here for a second. This is very practical stuff that is important to know because some of this type of stuff is on the test. So make sure to screenshot that and review that. All right, customizing the checkout. Let's take a few minutes, unless we have other questions here relating to EAV. We can take a few minutes and review this. Starting to checkout, but ultimately we're going to dig into it a lot more next week. So again, don't forget to mark your calendars for next Saturday. We will continue our conversations about checkout. And I fully intend, just so we're clear, to keep going on this study group probably through to the end of April. I will not be available on, the 24th? Actually, it's my birthday. I will not be available on the 24th, but past that, we can probably do that. And so probably they'll end the beginning of May. But again, we can always go a little bit further if necessary, if we feel like there's more stuff to dig up and to uncover. Okay. Customizing the checkout. This is a little bit on the test, on the expert test. This is not on the professional test. But I want to quickly talk about this because I think it's really important, again, in understanding working through the test. Customizing UI components for the front-end checkout experience. Where is this all located? Well, actually, I see a question coming in right here. So before we transition too much into checkout, we need to take a moment and look at this. So Nia says, can create an attribute select type whose value depends on category selection for the product. I'm not fully tracking you there. It's a little more detailed than that. So if you want to drop more stuff like that in the comments or more information, that'd be great. But yeah, I wasn't 100% tracking you there. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, come in. So how do we find out? How do we start digging into this specific question? Okay. Let's jump over into the checkout. We'll actually just view source. Oopsie. Boy, that's taking a while. Do we have an XD bug going on here? Oh, yeah, we did. I thought so. Okay, there we go. Let's get rid of this stuff. Okay. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, got more. That is one critical thing as well to mention when using XDebug. And actually, I don't have this in the course, which would be probably important to mention. The more breakpoints you have, so we can see the number of breakpoints we have. Nope, not that one. Let's see here. A few breakpoints. More breakpoints we have, the slower your application is going to run, period, when XDebug is running. So, okay. So, how are we going to figure out how this stuff is initialized, all that stuff? We can do that. Actually, here's my favorite trick. I'm going to scroll over here to the side. Let's see the long ones. Yeah, there we go. Now we're talking. We got, what was it, 3 lines, 2 lines, something like that. Yep, 2 lines that are incredibly long. Okay, so we have our UI component declaration, as we also have checkout config. And I don't remember exactly the location that this was found in, but I do understand that checkout config, it's not a good idea to throw information in there. So don't use window.checkout config. We want to bake information into our UI components. So where is this found? So we see block summary is et cetera, et cetera. Again, searching for values we find in the code that we think are fixed. It's not like it's a loaded from store configuration, which would be variable or changeable. Block summary seems like that would be a fixed value. Let's just do search here for block summary. We see in shipping.phtml, okay, block get JS layout. So we can set a breakpoint here. Oh, this is cart shipping. I don't know. But I didn't think that looked right. Let's see here. One page.phtml. I'm on the cart. Duh. Okay, that's funny. Okay, so either way, it's the same concept here. I went into one page.phtml. That's where it's found. We can set a breakpoint, and we go into get JS layout. And for our one page, we can set a breakpoint here. We see layout processors. And yes, so this JS layout we see comes from data JS layout. Where does that come from? Well, let's do a search here. And we can filter it back to .xml. And check out cart index, argument name JS layout. So that's where it comes from. And remember, if you remember this, we have a block, and then we have arguments, and then we have argument and we use that for creating view models or using view models. So in this case, it's just kind of like specifying a view model, except we are passing in a massive, like a freaking massive array of XML. So ultimately, this brings us back to the point. We have 2 options in order to customize Layout XML for the checkout. Number 1 is in our, oops, I should have pulled that up. View, front end, layout, checkout cart, oh, not that one, checkout index. Index, our layout handle. We can modify it in here. And next week, I'll give you show you a trick on how to do that. So remind me if I forget. But the other thing is layout processors. And so you can create all the layout processors you want, and you can edit the values there. And we actually go really deep dive into this in the advanced Magento training course, which talks about how we actually are adding gift card functionality into the checkout. So that's a little bit tricky, and layout processors is the way to do that. So it's not always the way. If it's fixed, if you have fixed values in there, you don't really need to ever customize that runtime. XML is great. But if you need to start customizing a runtime or injecting values into your XML, then layout processors are crucial for that. All right, let's get back to Niha. Great. We don't want to create a configurable product only simple product, but want the product attribute value depends on category, like value for attribute load by Ajax on category selection. Okay, that's a good question. So how would, in other words, and I'll try to rephrase this. Let me know if I'm rephrasing this incorrectly. But basically, you want a value for a we want a value for a simple product, but it depends on the category. So, so a value is set. Maybe a attribute value is set, but the category determines whether the attribute value is sent down to the browser or something along those lines. And it uses a attribute load by Ajax depending on product category selection. All right, so let's run through quickly how we would. Oh, what if we want the file attribute to upload documents for product with add more functionality to that attribute? So last question there, and I realize now as I read it, there's two separate questions. The last question about wanting file attribute to upload documents, that would be a custom option. That's already available in Magento. You can, in fact, if I was to click into one of these, we should be able to see that we can create a custom option to be able to upload files. So that's pretty much already done. If you want to customize that out, you can do that, but the basic functionality is there. Let's see here. Come down to customizable options, add option. Option type is file. So we see all these customizable options. We can create a new file type, etc. So that's pretty cool. All right. So, but customizable product values. So like an attribute value. How would we do that? Now, the way I would approach this, and this is the way I would do this, is a couple of things. So I would use an Ajax. Well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Ajax is a great way to do this. And in fact, when you use Ajax, use the webapi.xml file. Create an endpoint, an anonymous endpoint. So, well, let's do this. Webapi.xml. Oops, you guys want to be able to see what I'm typing here. Right here. Okay. Do I see anonymous? No, I do not see an anonymous in here. Okay, we'll try another one. There should be some anonymous. Yeah, okay. So we create a new endpoint like this one. So this is in module checkout webapi.xml. And so we would create so we have a route, and we create a service class, and then we resource ref is anonymous. So we would pass up the product SKU. Don't pass up the product ID. Use the product SKU. And then we would, we can create whatever functionality we want to. At that point, we're probably not just going to load the attribute value, but we would, create some custom functionality in order to see, okay, what category is this in? And ultimately, the one thing to keep in mind is what if a product is in multiple categories? You can on the front end, if the product is inside of a category URL structure, then you would know the category. I think the biggest challenge is knowing what category the product is in. And you're never going to have 100% knowledge of that, because if somebody goes from a search engine to the product, like the search engine result pages, goes to a product, there will probably be there might be no category. So as such, it's never going to be 100% sure what category the user just clicked in. You could use sessions. So basically when the customer goes to a category page, it saves a value to their session. Now when they come to this check or to whatever product, the PDP, the product page, then it goes and loads in the value via Ajax, and obviously uses a session to see what their last category page was. That does work. In fact, that actually, no, that does not exist already, I don't think. Okay, so hopefully that pushes you in the right direction for that question. And also feel free, I'm happy to chat this through also on Slack. And again, I'm always available via Slack. I say always, usually not on Sunday, but otherwise I try to keep really good tabs on what's going on in Slack. Yes, file type is available, but with add more, it is not. Okay. So with add more, that's where you're going to get a little more tricky. And you're going to have to probably customize pretty much every step of the process. That's a little bit more involved than I can probably get into here in this conversation, just because you're going to have to do a lot of customizations across the board. So and the one important thing to think through is all the touch points. There's a lot of touch points for custom options. So if we looked at here, oh, it's probably not going to be front end templates. Oops, product, view options, type file. So obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with this one here, but yes, making it so that you would customize and add more to that. You'll have to touch this page. You'll have to adjust how these are added to the cart. You will want to modify the cart page, the sales order email page, the admin order page as well. So there's a lot of touch points to doing that. So I would probably, if it was me tackling something like that, it would probably be 20 to, well, I'm going to say at least a 3-day project, if not 4 or even 5-day project to do something like this. As such, the next question I would ask is there something that's already pre-built out there for this? And I would almost guarantee yes. So do consider if there is a solid, well-built module that is available on the market for that. Anyways, I think that's about all we have time for today. I don't want to overextend my welcome with you all. We went a few minutes over. Is there any final questions before we close it up for today? And again, we will be getting together next week for further conversation. We're going to dive into checkout. Again, continuing the conversation we started here today. Is there any final questions before we wrap it up? And again, I am very keen to hear you all's feedback. I want to make it knowing how difficult to make this or how advanced to make it is always a challenge for me because I want to make it applicable to everyone, but I know it's not always going to be applicable to everyone then. So I appreciate feedback. Feel free to DM me on Slack. If you don't have access to Slack, let me know and I can easily get you at that access. Joseph@swiftauto.com. Happy to get you that access. It's a really vibrant community. I'm pretty stoked. Some super wonderful people in there. And a lot of questions are answered. So make sure you're not missing out on that. But again, I love feedback on this, on these study groups, and what can I do to make it more helpful for you to be more impactful? And again, the number one goal is to help you pass the test. So what can I do in order to make that happen? So anyways, all right, I think that is it for today. It was a pleasure being with you all, and I wish you a very wonderful week. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, enjoy your spring. For those of you in the Summer Hemisphere, I hope you enjoyed your summer as you're now descending into the depths of winter. So anyways, it's a pleasure being with you all, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will look forward to talking. Oh, I see Neha come in here again. Neha, actually, I'm going to ask if you could drop that in Slack, and I'd be more than happy to help provide you some direction in Slack there. So anyways, it's a pleasure being with you all. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.